I guess it really boils down to us forcing ourselves to be public figures that nobody asked for.
Yeah.
But it all comes from, I think, just place of just being, I don't know, I felt like an outcast growing up. And then once I got older and developed some skills, I figured I want to do something about this and find other outcasts. And then you do, and you're like, oh, wow, a lot of these people suck too. It's a very complicated thing being a human being. So
It's the weirdest thing I've ever done.
So everybody, please make some noise. Katy Scary is in the house. So it's interesting, you know, living in 2022 or just living in general, regardless of year, but being somebody, as we mentioned, that wants to create content for people to consume in a digital landscape because maybe we are a little bit burned out on the physical world. What has the past few years of your life been like?
I played my last live show with Claymore in 2019. We didn't play any Claymore music. We can talk about that later. That's a whole other thing. And then after that, weirdest thing happened in 2020. And we were like, oh, I guess like we don't have to go outside anymore ever again. Maybe, who knows? But so I don't know. I was just like kind of tired of trying to organize my bandmates and stuff. So I just like ignored people for like 6 months because like that's what they had just gotten done doing to me. And I was like, it's my turn now. I was like, I don't have to answer messages this time. But yeah, so it was like sort of just like had a gradual falling out with those guys. And then at the beginning of 2021, the other guitar player in Claymore, Dan, like messaged me and was like, are we still going to do stuff? And I was like, yeah, why not? So we like started working on doing original music and stuff again, but still didn't play any shows because we didn't have anybody else to do it with. And I was like, I'm really not too concerned with it. I was like, I've been enjoying being in my house making music. It's I don't know. It feels the like reward feeling for it feels way more than going out and playing a show, like putting together a video and like recording a song and like doing all the stuff for it. I don't know. I feel better about I like putting out content like that more than I liked trying to organize playing a show.
I totally get that. There's something that I've been thinking about a lot in terms of why bands operate in this need to, I mean, obviously bands writing music and recording music makes sense. Mm-hmm. And then releasing that music to some degree for people to consume in the privacy of their own leisure, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But then, you know, okay, you start to get into like music videos and band promos and even shows to some degree. And it's like, okay, now a lot of this stuff is advertising and marketing and selling, which is cool. I think that, you know, we should all be trying to monetize our creativity to some degree because
I'd rather doing it than
I'd rather work for myself than somebody else.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, why are we doing this? You know, and you think like every time I see like some shitty local band, or not even local, there's plenty of established bands that make terrible music videos too.
Anyone can be awful. It's like the easiest thing to do.
But it's like, what's the point of doing this? And I feel like so many bands or creative people in general get caught up doing things that they feel like they're obligated to do because they're following this blueprint of what a band is supposed to be.
Yes.
So then it leads back into you're like, well, I'm not feeling fulfilled doing these things. It's like, okay, well, why do them? You could still be a functioning musician without needing to do like every single ABC of what a band is supposed to fucking be. Mm-hmm. You know, so with everything that you do, which is a wide variety of things creatively in terms of like genre and music, and then like I imagine, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but in regards to a lot of the content that you do digitally and like with like graphics and things like that, are you handling a lot of that stuff as well?
Like if it's something that like we need to throw our logo on it or whatever. Like I'm not doing like artwork for it. But if there's like if it's like, oh well, like the Bandcamp page needs a profile picture or whatever, it's like, oh, grab some background and throw our logo on it. And like I do that stuff. Like I'll do like Photoshop and I edit all of the if you've ever seen a video from me, like I'm the one that edited it and stuff like that. But yeah, the only thing that I don't do is like if we had like artwork.
Yeah, okay. Made. So like anything that's like visual arts in terms of like the creation of it. But
yeah.
So it seems like maybe this skill set that you have acquired over the course of time, like you wouldn't be editing videos if it wasn't for making music, and you wouldn't be photoshopping band logos if it wasn't for having a band. So all this stuff is like tied to like music, right? And just maybe not knowing other people that can do it or not wanting to deal with those people or a combination of it.
Yeah.
The things, right?
It started with like I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I was like, it would take longer to just like explain this. Or I was like, I can already do most of this. I'm like, it would just be like a pain in the ass to like try to explain the last part of it to somebody, or like have somebody else that was like in the band or whatever, like also start to acquire this skill. And I was just like, but I can already do it. So like, I'm just going to do it. Like,
yeah,
that was pretty much just the mindset behind gaining all of those skills for it.
Yeah, it's one of those funny things that like, I don't know how you relate to this, but I like realized years down the road that like I had these skill sets that I never even thought about. Like it took me a long time to even be like, oh, I guess I'm a video editor. Like I would never feel comfortable saying that.
I've only started saying things like that within the last year. Like the last 6 months of last year, it was just like a bunch of like imposter syndrome things just like completely fell off. Like I finally had, I started to do things that I had like finally wanted to do. And I was like, oh, I guess like that is like, I would go to post about it and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm starting to get into, and it's like, yeah, but you did it. Like, so I was like, okay, yeah, delete that and like reword it and be like, yeah, now this is a thing that I do. Not like I'm an aspiring whatever, like I'm learning whatever. I was just like, but I'm doing it. So like, that's how I need to like talk about it. But yeah.
It's really interesting being somebody that is creating art and choosing to share it digitally. I mean, that's really, no matter what you do now, we're sharing it digitally. Yeah. You know, whether it's a song or a music video or your fucking lunch or whatever, like you're sharing it digitally. So I've always had a really hard time, like related to what you're saying, with being like, this is something that I do, or feeling like promoting anything that I do with any sort of like confidence or, you know, God forbid, ego. Yeah. You know, like, excuse me if my, you know, heavy metal band promotion has a little bit of cockiness attached to it, but that's kind of the point, right?
Yeah, that's the brand of it. Like, that's the, I wouldn't want to see an extreme metal band be like, maybe you guys should like, if you have a minute, like, I guess you could maybe see what we're doing.
I saw this really fucking funny meme yesterday that I think was actually supposed to be like a genuine critique of hardcore music, but I just found it really entertaining.
Yeah.
It was like y'all let anime kids take over hardcore and you wonder why it's soft now. So I don't know, that seems somewhat related to what we're talking about, which, I mean, it's true, but it's really interesting how like there is a, you know, a new wave of, I mean, people age out of things and new generations of people come in and take things over. And I love that we're living in this time where we're finally starting to see the shift of like what heavy music is and what it should be advertised as and who has the right to be performing heavy music. Like, it's really fucking silly. Like, don't get me wrong, I do think that you can have some ego and attitude, but that doesn't mean that like everything needs to be fucking like tough guy, hyper masculine, fucking dog shit, right? So with, you know, the evolution of heavy music for somebody that has, I imagine, listened to guitar-based music for the majority of their life, how have you felt about, you know, these modern bands coming out, all these youngsters doing their
kids,
their hip guitar things with the backtracks and their, you know, their pretty haircuts and fun pants. But that's really nothing new, honestly, if you backtrack. So.
Right, exactly.
That's the other funny thing.
It's the same thing. It's just sort of like rotated, where it's like, yeah, it's the same concept, but like what it looks like is different now. But yeah, I don't know. For people like using backing tracks and stuff, like I think that's fine. Like the only time that like I have a personal like issue with it is only like if it's something that like I thought was being played live and then I notice that it's not, it just like takes me out of it for a second and then I start to wonder like, oh, what else is pre-recorded? But like obviously there's not like a fucking choir on stage with them or whatever. Like if I hear that, I'm not like, hold on. Like, so there's things like that where it's just like, oh, all of a sudden 800 backing vocals came out of nowhere. I'm like, that's fine. Or it's just like, we have our orchestrations like playing with us. I'm like, that's fine. Or like people like play to a click track or whatever. I'm like, that's fine. But yeah, it's just like weird if I notice that like something is being mimed only because then I am not paying attention. Like then I'm not actually listening to what's going on.
Sure.
I'm just like, wait, is that guy really playing this right now? And it just like takes me out of it. But like conceptually, I don't have a problem. It's just like when I notice it, just for me personally, I'm just like, oh, now I'm not even here. Like now I'm like paying attention to completely other things.
It all goes back to that point of like, why are we doing this? Yeah. Like if we're gonna bring all of this gear to a stage and then pretend to play, like, okay, I guess I respect the ego that the band has for expecting me to give a shit about this charade that they're playing. But like, why do this?
Yeah. Yeah, if it's literally every single thing. Like, I don't give a shit about, like, drum triggers or, like, things like that. Like, I'm fine with, like, 99% of it. But, yeah, if it was literally just, like, people went up and, like, were pretending to be playing, I'm just like, dude, I could have stayed home and listened to this really loud. I didn't have to pay $15 for parking.
Yeah. Like, something that I've noticed.
Like, there's atmosphere and stuff. Like, I get that people just enjoy, like, being in the room with everything happening, but I don't know. For me, I'd rather chill at home and I can still listen to the music.
I think it's so much different for people like me and you who have, there are people that exist that could probably be like, oh yeah, I've been to like 12 concerts. They know how many times they've been to a show.
Right, yeah.
I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
You don't know. I have no idea. It's and like I think that like once you engage with something for so long, your brain starts to take different things out of it, you know.
Yes.
But with that being said, something that's really interesting that I've noticed more over the past 5 or so years when I'm talking with people is the concept of people saying that they don't want to go to shows because they don't like the way that live music sounds. Like they would rather just listen to it at home than like see a shitty representation of it, even if it's like their favorite band. And that just blows my mind.
I get it to a degree.
Like yeah.
Cause like, I don't know, when stuff is a certain volume, it stops sounding like anything. Like, you know what I mean? To a point. Like, but I don't know. I have like some synesthesia stuff that like seeing colors and stuff when you hear music and like next to none of it is there in a live environment. Like, I don't know if it's just because it's like so loud, like my brain is no longer like interpreting it the same way that I would be hearing it like at a normal listening volume.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I don't know. When I hear live music, like it all sounds white or like gray. Like songs that I already have like a color association for, like I would like hear it live and I'm just like, this is just like blank slate now. So I'm like, I also get it if people are just like, I don't know, sounds like shit live, like not even like, oh, the playing's sloppy or whatever. It's just like, no, when it's 1,000 decibels, like it's a completely different like experience than, you know, listening in your car or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Your AirPods, whatever people have these days.
Yeah, I guess that's another really interesting conversation, being somebody that you do self-record music, right? I didn't want to put that on you. I was pretty sure you self-recorded music. So you're into like recording music and mixing and all of that stuff. And it's like you go through all this effort to make something sound a particular way, but then everybody's just listening to it on
their phone speaker.
Or a laptop or whatever. And it's interesting. Like, how much do people really care about these sort of things? And I think there are some genres of music where people are like, yeah, I mean, if it sounds good, it sounds good. But all this like heavy metal tone chasing. Ugh. I mean, I'm still the type of person that's like, yeah, did you hear this album? That snare is sick, but I kind of hate it. Like, why can't I just listen to something?
Like, why can't I just be like, cool song, dude? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I bought 2 new amp sims like in the last month. So the one was because there were only 2 settings on it, gain and bypass. And I was like, no way. Like, and they were like, this is the best amp sim you'll ever use. And I was like, maybe, let's find it. It was like $30 or something. And I was like, that feels worth the risk. And like, yeah, I've used it on stuff like that I've put out recently. Cause yeah, it was like so close enough that I was just like, yep, I don't have to sit here and like dial in a million things. Like I can EQ a couple things like, you know, no longer on like the amp head because there isn't one. It's just the gain knob, but like, you know, have whatever other EQ and Pro Tools and be like, try to fit it in with the other things that are actually in the song. But like, yeah, I don't, it was nice that it was like, so close enough to just like stereotypical metal rhythm tone that I was like, I don't have to worry about like how much low end is on it or whatever. I was just like, I'll just make a couple like notches where other instruments that the person that made this plugin didn't know I was going to have going or whatever. But yeah, so like it just like sort of ties into the like, when people are listening, it's like, who cares? Does anyone care what it sounds like? Like as long as it sounds close enough to what you're expecting, and I'm like, yep, that's this amp sim. I'm like, it sounds like a heavy metal guitar.
Yeah.
So like, I don't need to spend 9 more hours like worrying about it. Like I'm just like, yep, that's probably the right amount of gain, and that's it.
Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so interesting. I love that the threshold for access to good technology and like quality amp sims and things like that is like pretty accessible now for most people, which I think is great. I think it's awesome that any group of ding dongs can put out a great quality sounding thing, regardless of how much of a real band they are or not.
Yeah.
But what's real and what's not is subjective. The only thing that like bums me out is like hearing new Megadeth that sounds like everything else.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Did you hear the, what is it? We'll Be Back or whatever the hell that song's called.
Yeah.
And like, it was like, I mean, it sounds good, but it sounds like every other metal record I've heard.
Yeah, it's like really sterile.
So like, clean sounding.
I've never really ever used that like as a complaint before. I like when stuff sounds really nice. Cause like Judas Priest put out an album in like 2018 and people were like, sounds too nice. And I was like, shut up.
I like Firepower. I think it sounds pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's like one of my favorite ones by them. And I did not expect that coming into it. Like I was just like, good for you guys, still doing stuff. And then I was like, oh, this fucks like the whole time. But yeah, like definitely with a band like Megadeth where it just sounds like every other like big label thing now. And it's just like, that's a weird shift for that band specifically.
I think what helped Firepower work so well is like it's an unbelievable vocal performance from Rob Halford.
Yeah.
Like, top to bottom, like he just sounds like, you know, the wildest human being. There's so much fun nuance and character stuff that he's doing. Oh man.
The dude that produced it, Andy Sneap, he like I guess his approach to things when he works with like legacy bands, he's just like, I really like you guys. Here's the stuff that I liked about you guys. Like as a fan, like here's what I enjoyed about your band, like over your career. And he like gives them like points like that. And then they're just like, oh, okay. So like this should be a focus. Like that's what people liked about us. Like we can just go back and like really hone in and improve on it and stuff. And I think that's why it was such a gigantic leap from like the one that they put out before it. But like, yeah, so anytime I have a plugin and it's just like, here's the Andy Sneap preset, I'm like, that's the first one I'm checking. like every single time. I have it for a Superior drummer. There's like a bunch of Andy Sneap like metal drum kits and stuff. And I'm like, those are the first ones I look at for it. And I think there were some on like a guitar amp sim that I had. Like it was like artist specific or whatever presets. And I think there was, I had one that was like a bunch of Andy Sneap stuff. And I was like, these are the first ones I'm looking at. I was like, because I've heard this dude like I'm like, he knows exactly what he's doing. Like, I don't have to worry about like if it was somebody else like trying to replicate. Like they're like, oh, if someone's like, oh, you know, like that classic Megadeth tone or whatever, and it's like trying to emulate something. I'm like, no, probably they just asked Andy Sneap. Like he probably at a very minimal level had any involvement with these things if it has his name on it. So
Totally.
I'm just like, yep, that's the one I'm going to trust first to like see the quality control check on these plugins. I'm like, I'm going to load up the Andy Sneap stuff.
With being a independent music producer, I imagine you've probably been like playing guitar, writing songs, recording for, I don't know, we could say maybe at least a decade, if not longer. That's a long time.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I'm in the same boat. I've been, you know, doing this for a long time by myself with bands, like, you know, no labels, no producers or anything like that. But the point I'm getting to is that over time, even artists such as Judas Priest, granted, they have a much longer career than either of us, but
at least a decade.
At least they sometimes having that outside person come in to just be like, hey, like this is what I liked about you.
Yeah.
Maybe you should try that. It could help.
Yeah.
You know, as a songwriter yourself that has maybe never had the opportunity to work with any sort of an outside producer, like how have you found yourself like able to continue to like make music and find inspiration with when all you have is yourself?
I don't, it's what do I say? It's like, it's really spaced out because of that. It's just like, oh, I have a couple ideas and then I will record them, but like maybe I don't have another one for 5 months. You know what I mean? Cause like there is nobody else being like, yo, we gotta like write a new song right now. Or like before when I would like write songs with bandmates and stuff, it was like, well, we all had to pick a specific time to like all meet up to mess around writing new riffs and stuff. But like when you don't have that, I'm just like, I don't know, I'll be in the shower or whatever, just like humming and then be like, oh, cool, I need to remember this. And then like try to play it on guitar as soon as I get out of here. I'm like, because like this might be my only idea for the next like 4 weeks or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's not something that I don't know how to actually like specifically chase inspiration and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it really does just happen whenever. The only times that I've been able to like make myself write something or whatever is like I will just go to like practice guitar. Like I'll like be like, oh, time to do scale runs for 20 minutes or whatever. And then I just like end up messing around. And then I'm like, oh, I guess I came up with some cool ideas while I was doing that. But like, I don't know. I've rarely just like sat down to be like, time to write a song. I have 0 ideas going in. Like, let's see what happens. It'll either be accidentally like while I'm practicing or just like over time, just like, you know, humming to myself in my car or whatever. And I'll take my phone out and just like hum into it and be like, okay, like save that for later. Like we need to do something with it.
Yeah, I think that's a natural way to approach songwriting or anything creative. I think that the world is so fast paced and moving like blah, 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 all the time that it's really easy to feel forced to create more than is humanly possible because you're always seeing other people that are doing stuff. And sometimes you see people that are very prolific at doing stuff. And I don't know, a lot of the times the prolific people, the quality of the output is maybe not really even worth the extra effort. Which is maybe something like worth getting into is like, cause I know that during the dark pandemic times, I was trying to create a lot more online content than I ever had before because I had nothing else to do.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And, you know, after doing it for, you know, like a year, I was like, wow, I feel like I got absolutely nothing out of any of this other than just like the ability to like film and edit good quality looking videos really fast.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, it's like I just don't even know what my intention was. It was just like I'm bored and I feel like I have things to say with the world that nobody asked about.
Yeah.
It's just like weird, you know? How have you been with like, you know, somebody that has also created consistent online content and like how did that affect you as just like a human being outside of being like a creator?
It was fucking wild, dude. I'm trying to think of like the timeline of it. So it was like at the end of like during 2020, I was like, cool, I got my government bucks. I'm gonna like go buy stuff that I like couldn't before. Like I bought a custom guitar, and like shit that I'd always wanted on it, like specific pickups and things that I wanted. I was like, cool. I was like, I finally have like the guitar that I want. Awesome. And I was like, I'm gonna buy like a nicer camera now. And so like I got one that could like shoot in 4K. And I asked one of my friends that does a bunch of video stuff. I was like, if you like, what lens? I was like, if I have 0 lenses, like what lens would you buy? I was like, what one that you have right now? Like if you lost all of them, which one would you like get back first?
Yeah.
He was like, this one. I was like, cool, that's what I'm doing. I like set up a room in my house to just like film videos in. But so it's like, I had like no output in 2020 because I was just like putting all this stuff together. And I like got one of my friends that was just into like the like concept of film. Like, so he just like watched a million movies, like understood like lighting and stuff. Like that was just like one of his hobbies. And so I had him film videos for me. And so then like when 2021 started, that's when I like actually started putting stuff out because I like had all of the bill. I was like, okay, I finally have all of the resources. I was like, I can finally start doing this. But so I was only putting out like a video like every month. And then in July of 2021, it was like the last day of July 2021, I got let go from my job. And then I was like, I guess I have time to like do all that stuff I wanted to do now. And so I was like, I bet I could do 2 videos a month. Like I'm not doing, I was like, this is the time to do it. I was like, I have like money saved up. I was like, I don't need to get another job immediately. Like I was like, let's see if I'm actually the kind of person that can do this, like that can just consistently make content stuff. Cause like not everyone can. I kind of can't is like what I ended up learning, or the way I learned that like the way that I had approached it was just like also not a great idea. Cause like I had never had just unlimited time to just pour straight into it. So it was like I learned a bunch about how to manage that time and things like that. But yeah, it was like I did 2 videos. So got fired in July, and then I put out 2 videos in August. And then like I had just been working on so much stuff throughout the year that I had a million things like 90% done. So then it was like September, and I was like, I could just finish that one thing real quick and like put it out. And then I was like, I think I'll just finish that other thing real quick and put this out. And then I was like, oh, that would be like every week in September. Like I could just be putting something out. I was like, let's see if I can do it. And then it was the next month. I was like, let's see if I can do it again. But then like because like during all of that, I was like, okay, I stopped filming videos with my friend because I was doing them so fast, like having him like find a specific day that like he didn't have anything going on after work to like come over to my place and like film a video. It was getting like narrower and narrower. So I was like, I'm just going to like film these myself on a tripod. I got like a plug-in that adds like fake like shaky cam to it, so it like looks more
a little
interesting.
handheld.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like the difference is like staggering, like between just watching like a static image and then just like the kind of shaky thing. And I was just like, okay, I'm so glad that I added this, like, because I was like, I don't even know how worth it would be. I was like, and I had been editing a video, had watched it a million times without it. And then as soon as I added it, I was like, this is 1,000 times better. But so like that's what I did so that I could just do it all myself. But yeah, I mean, it was like I was living by myself. So it was like just me, and I was like, I'm not fucking talking to other people right now. I was like, I'm just gonna focus on this. I was like, I'm like deleting Tinder. Like I'm just like not fucking around with anything. I'm just gonna see how much of this I can do. By November, I was like not wanting to like get out of bed because I was just constantly like burning myself out like doing this stuff. And so like then it got to a point where I was like, okay, what's like a really short video that I could make this week to see if I can like continue. I was like, I just want to see if I can get to the end of the year. Like if I could do half a year. And I was like, and then I'll like go get a job. I'll be a normal person again. But like, yeah, I couldn't figure out like how I was getting burnt out. And then like I went to like go like hang out with my friends and like fucking drink and play Mario Kart with them for a night. And like the next day I was like, oh, I feel pretty good. I was like, oh, I just hadn't seen a human in like 3 weeks, like that was it. And I was like, whoops. I was like, I forgot to just like continue to like even vaguely attempt to be a regular person while trying to churn out all of this music and all of these videos and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was wild for like 6 months. And like 4 of the months, I think it was always like a metal video for like the Claymore channel. So because like some of it I was doing like lo-fi hip hop stuff and like remixes and things like that. But yeah, for I think September through December, it was all like filming a video, editing a video, like recording and arranging a cover song and stuff like that. But yeah, so I got burnt out on it like very quickly in ways that I wasn't expecting, because previously I would just have to take breaks because it was like time to go to work or whatever, or it would be like, oh, I'm tired of doing this right now, and you just like wouldn't do it for a couple days. You had other things going on, but I was like, no, this is the thing that I'm gonna have going on right now. Like I'm only gonna do this and see what happens. But yeah, so it was quite a learning experience.
Sure. It's an insane amount of work for one person to put on their shoulders. I mean, just concept to execution to distribution is, I mean, it seems like, oh, that's only 3 things, but there's so much that goes into it. By
the end of it, some of the mental blocks, it was like literally like, oh, I have to spend 5 minutes on this website, like submitting it to Spotify, and I'd just be like, I'll do it tomorrow. Like, you know what I mean? Like the mental blocks that started to happen over like things that shouldn't have been like they shouldn't have been a big deal. Like, yeah, you need to type the name of the song in and like drag the album art over onto this webpage, and like you're done, and that's it. It'll be done. And I was just like, nah, I'm gonna handle that later. Like.
My least favorite thing about doing the podcast is uploading the episodes every week, because it's all that stuff. I'm like, what episode number is this? I got to check. And then I'm like, I got to write a description. I got to put in some links. And then, I'm uploading, I got to make all the thumbnails and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just
because you're like, oh, it's done. And it's like, it's not done because you still have all,
It's like, and like, it's funny that like it adds up to being like sometimes, another like hour, if not longer, worth of work.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm like starting this at like, 10 o'clock when I finally get home from everything else.
Right.
And like, I'm not in the space to even want to like care. So it's just like very half-assed and just, but like, that's the thing that's like going to get people to want to click it to even begin with.
Yeah, you can't trip at the finish line on it, because it's like that's the only way that all the other work will be worth it is if somebody watches it. Like I have to lure them to actually fucking look at this. Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel it.
I've always thought about how in a weird way, I mean, I guess it's a lot easier in a digital landscape for like something like photographers or visual artists that just create static images, for people to consume their work and have a full understanding of it a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Because they don't need to take 3.5, 4 minutes of their time to listen to a whole song and watch a whole video that you produced. And it like really bums me out sometimes, but it also makes it like, oh, I kind of understand why like TikTok music is a thing and why a lot of pop songs now are barely 2 minutes, because it's
like a minute 45 or whatever. Yeah.
And it's such an interesting concept for me. I get it. I still don't like it, but I understand why it's happening. So we talked a bit about like modern metal and all that stuff, modern rock music, modern guitar music.
Yeah.
Outside of modern guitar music, I know that you do some things that don't involve any strings.
Yes.
Just more beeps and boops and computery type things. Has that helped like refresh your palette in terms of just being a creator, like taking a step away from all of the heavy metal stuff and just kind of creating maybe like simpler, shorter, little fun things?
Yeah. I mean, it really depends, because sometimes, yes, it's like a nice step back. But also I have to like, set specific time aside for it, because like I don't want to be working on some like lo-fi piano track and then like 2 hours later be like, okay, now that you're really used to hearing stuff like that, you have to mix that metal song that or like you have to record guitar, and it's like I don't feel like recording guitar after like messing around with this for a while. So I try to do it I try to set out like specific stretches of time for it, of just being like, okay, like this week I'm going to do like these lo-fi things and I'm not going to worry about any metal stuff, or like I'll do metal stuff and be like, I'm not going to worry about any lo-fi stuff. But then like, yeah, it's nice to then, when it's time to switch to the different thing, and like, yeah, get a completely different perspective of what music is supposed to sound like. Like, yeah. But yeah, so that's been an interesting change of pace.
In regards to social media, I pretty much decided I was going to throw in the towel after Instagram was a thing. I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to adopt another social media platform. And I have not. And some have come and gone, but it seems like TikTok is kind of here to stay for the time being. Yeah. Do you fuck with TikTok at all?
I don't, but I should. Like, that's a me problem. But okay. People should, but I'm just like.
So that's the thing. Like, why should we?
Yeah. And that opens up like an entire can of worms, because of what I also think that people don't understand, is that like probably still, I mean, years later since it has come out, like a lot of those views are probably bots, and like a lot of those followers are bots. Like even on stuff that's established, like Twitter, like somebody just like posted like a couple days ago and they were like, I literally never knew that most of my following was bots. Like everyone I've interacted with on this site was a bot. They were like, because Twitter just started purging like huge amounts of dead accounts and bots and things like that. And people were like, I lost like 50,000 followers. Like I only had like 800 real followers. Like I've been talking to myself on the fucking internet and like thought that I had a following. And I'm like, I really think that like if TikTok ever did that, that like it would purge an insane amount of accounts.
Yeah, it's
just especially because it's so new. So like people are trying to game it and
totally.
So
yeah, it's like, I know people that use TikTok and they're seeing some level of success on the platform, which I guess is great for their self-esteem and whatever.
Yeah. It's fun. Yeah. It's fun to see numbers go up. Yeah. Like I'm not gonna act like it's not. Like it's
no, yeah, you cannot it's we are human beings, and the dopamine hit is very real.
Yeah.
So the thing that's interesting though is just like when you like view them like on cross platforms, it's just like if this was really something, it would be somewhat consistent across multiple platforms. It's like, why do you think that it's just this one platform that's really working for you? But that's whatever. Again, if it makes you happy.
Yeah. Or some of the stuff that I've seen
bad,
is
as a wise woman once said.
What was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, I had even noticed stuff like before TikTok, just like you're saying, like cross-platform, you go to look at other numbers and you're like, why are you non-existent? It's like, why do you have 0 plays on Spotify, but you have like tens of thousands on YouTube or whatever? But like, I don't know. I forget the name of it, so I can't even like forget to name drop or like avoid name dropping them. But it was some local group, and like they put out like their first YouTube video and it got like 100,000 views and it had like 4 comments on it, and I was like, guys, come on. Like I was like, how dumb do you think? And then everyone was like, holy shit. And I was like, okay, apparently we're all that dumb. Like we really think these were real views. Because I mean, that was like 10 years ago when you could literally just like go to a website and it was like, buy views, like buy 100,000 views. I'm like, that's all they did. Like that's all that they did. I'm like, this video has 18 likes and 6 comments. Like that's just not real, guys. Like,
yeah, it's even to this day, there's still like people that I know that, I'll interact with somebody and they're like, oh, did you see such and such video? Or did you hear such and such song? And then like it has this many views. I'm like, that has nothing to do. Like I get like cold call emails about the podcast. It's like, this band is up and coming with X number of monthly listeners on Spotify. It's like, shut up.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, Spotify's turned into like a payola thing also, because people will be like, I have a playlist with this many listeners. And And it's like, I've used them before because it's like sometimes people really do just want to see a bigger number. And then they're like, now I will listen to like, oh, this must be a thing.
Absolutely.
Now I'll check it out. So I'm like, I get that there's like this psychological aspect to it like that. Even if it's like, yeah, we gave you 10,000 like fake plays or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, but now people see a song that has 10,000 views and they're like, I'm more likely to fucking look at this.
The thing that sucks about it too is that even if you're hyper aware of this, like you are and like I am, the fact is that there are, if we're not going to, it's like a, if you can't beat them, join them type situation where, sure, it's like, I don't want to do this, but also I don't need this ding dong new band to have fucking 1 million views on YouTube and for everybody to think that they're the shit when I know for a fact that I'm putting in 10 times the amount of work.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, but it's like, I need to get all these, how do I get people to pay attention to me or people to take me seriously or a promoter to take me seriously or somebody to book a show? You know, a lot of times like people don't have the fucking time to listen to your entire discography or even a song. So they will, you know, if they're booking a show, they're going to be like, oh, you know, we decided to line up for this event based off of online engagement or things like that. That's happened to us. Yeah. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, the other thing with like fake engagement, because like some of it's real, but it's like, you know, that most of it's not when you're like getting put on a curated playlist that's not like the Spotify official ones or whatever. But the thing is that like with some of them, it's like some real people do listen to it, and then it's like then you will get like some repeat plays. But like, yeah, if you get 10,000 plays from the playlist and then you get dropped from it, it's not like the next month is like, oh, well, 10,000 people heard this. They'll probably be back for, no, but like you at least start to get like anything out. You will reach like a few real people from doing it, which is cool. Cause like, how else do you, like you have to get yourself out there like somehow. And it's just like, well, if I can pay this dude like $10 and 15 real people actually hear it, then it's just like, but you know, cause like they'll add it to their own playlist and then you'll see it. That's the other thing. Like when you look at your analytics and stuff, it's like, yeah, here was the stupid like curated playlist. But then like after you're on that, like you'll see that you start to pop up on other like legitimate ones. Cause it's like, oh, this playlist only has like 8 followers, but like obviously they heard it on the big one. A like real person heard it on the big one. And then we're just like, that's going on my playlist that I just listen to on my drive to work every day. But the thing with that kind of stuff for YouTube is that even if it's bots, I don't give a shit because YouTube doesn't understand that it's bots. And so they're just like, whoa, 1,000 people watched this entire video. They all clicked on it and they all watched the entire video. That's really good. I'm going to try to show this to more people because obviously people are watching this whole video. It must be really good. And then you actually start to get like legitimate engagement after that. It's like I've done stuff, not like through sites that are like buy 10,000 views, but like through Google, like just Google ad stuff to promote videos and things. So it's like you pay them like 10 or 20 bucks or whatever. And then I'm like, I don't care if that bought me only bought views. Like I don't give a shit about that because if it is actually a good video, then when YouTube is like, I should show this to people. If you actually have something good and interesting, then when it's like suggested to real people that would want to see it, and then whenever they watch it, that's when you like actually find the new people. So it's like the fake initial views. I'm just like, that sucks and like is dumb that that's an avenue you can go down for it. But I'm just like, after doing that, then it actually starts to get to actual people because you've like tricked YouTube.
It like turns the on button on.
Yeah.
I honestly, I know I've talked about this before, but maybe not in this specific nuance that I'm going to now. But what I've said before is that I think that it's great that all of these social media companies and these platforms are free, even though nothing's really free.
Yeah.
I would gladly, and I get that there's a threshold for the access thing, but me personally, I would pay to use these services monthly if they just fucking worked. If I upload something and it goes out to people, like that is priceless to me at this point. And they have tricked me into thinking this. That's the fucked up thing, you know? But I would gladly just pay to use a service that works and not have to go through all of this fucking like Meta for Business and Google Analytics and stuff like that. Because
I stopped posting on Facebook like for band pages and stuff because I'm like, they made it so obnoxious to post. I'm like, they made it such a pain in the ass to like get the post to people. I was like, I'm never gonna pay to boost the post. Like I was like, I don't care. I'm done posting it. Like every once in a while, I'll be like, oh yeah, I put out a new video. I guess I will post it onto the Claymore page and be like, new video with whoever the fuck, look at it, and like that's it. But like, yeah, I'm not posting like fucking memes for engagement or just like updates on like working on something. Like who fucking cares? Like I'm like, it's such a pain in the ass to even get it posted. Totally. At this point. I'm over it.
Yeah, and we are not Coca-Cola or Frito-Lay or like big businesses, you know what I mean? It's like you're making it such a pain in the ass for like the few thousand people that maybe follow my page.
Right.
You know, like if anything, can there just be like with Spotify, they fucking like kind of gatekeep a lot of the features if you have like under 1,000 listener or monthly listeners or whatever it is. I forget what they do on Spotify, right?
I think,
or followers.
There's something
because
like
you can like listen and follow, and then if you get past that threshold, you can like start to sell merch on your Spotify page and things like that.
Yeah. Like the Shopify link that auto. So I forget what the requirements are, but I know what you're talking about.
But I feel like with like sites like Instagram and Facebook and Meta, it's all the same thing, right? You know, peas in a fucking pod. They it seems silly. Like it's like if I have an account that's like a business page, but it has under like 10,000 subs or even like 100,000 subs, like why are you subjecting me to all of this stuff? You know that I don't have somebody that I'm paying to handle this stuff. I didn't go to school for this. It's like, please, like I just made a bad music video with my friends in a basement and I want to share it with my friends.
Yeah. And they're like, 9 more steps. Like,
like, and we're still not going to let anybody see it.
Yeah, and then we won't show it, but like
you can give us money and we'll send it to
and we'll consider it.
We'll consider it. We'll put it in front of people that don't care and they're just going to leave comments like, why is this showing up on my Facebook page?
Laugh reaction.
That's like happened. That's like happened. Like I remember like boosting stuff when you know, we put out, I think it was whenever Some Faith, we did our first music video, and I remember putting a boost behind the YouTube link on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I remember there was just things like, why is this showing up on the page? And it's like, do you not understand how Facebook works?
It's like every fourth post, dude, is going to be something you weren't expecting. Like, I don't like that's how it is. I don't know.
Yeah, but that was, but anyways, with the TikTok thing, right? The interesting thing about creating content for TikTok is that I think there are people that are really good at creating that short content, and it works well with like what they naturally want to do.
Yes.
But it's like incredibly cringe for me to see people that like don't naturally have that short format content that are just starting to create things because they feel like they need to be on TikTok. So they're making this like really just worthless content is the nicest way I could put it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, why?
Or what was I going to say? Along with, you know, like how you're saying, oh, the people that are just like naturally good at like that's their format. Yeah. Or there's just people that don't have the like version of charisma that works for like, you're like, whoa, what's up guys? Here's my fucking video. Like, they're like real fake sounding persona thing that like every YouTuber, like every whatever, but like, yeah. And I'll just like watch it. And I'm like, you are 43 years old. Like, what are you fucking doing right now? Like, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, it's just, it's like what you have to do if that's the kind of stuff that you want to make. But it's also like you're saying, why are you making it? Like, yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting because like, you know, as somebody that still watches a lot of videos on YouTube and subscribes to some vloggers and all sorts of things. Anything from fucking horror movies to music production to theme park shit. Like I'm into all this stuff. And like, I've like found people that I thought are just like genuinely good at doing this.
Yeah.
But there's like, for every one person that I think is really good at it, I could find a few dozen others that are just like it's cringe.
Yeah.
But they all have like, you know, a lot of them have just as many subscribers and following and engagement as the ones that I like.
Yeah.
And it's
so
like,
you're like, this must be for someone.
Well,
like,
I guess, you know, to some people, I'm probably pretty cringe.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's just a matter of like finding your small bubble and maybe being comfortable in that bubble. And maybe like for me personally, like with this podcast, we could say like, I interview Pittsburgh-based and tri-state area. You know, it depends. It's not always Pittsburgh, but
sure.
People in arts and entertainment, and we just talk about this kind of sort of shit, you know?
Yeah.
This is a limited sort of fan base, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's no reason for me to think that I should be getting the same numbers that, like, you know, some other white guy with a beard is getting that has a podcast, you know? That's like, you know, just, I don't know, talking about horror movies or whatever the fuck they do.
Fucking murder mystery. Whatever. Yeah. Things that are applicable to everyone. And you're like, so here's things that are like going on around me.
Sure.
And it's just like, right. So the people around here would probably want to know. And it's like, but like some dude in fucking Nevada, like, is not gonna like,
why would they care? You know, it's a limited base. And then also with like my bands, it's like, you know, there's only so many people that are gonna kind of like this music. And it's like we get fucked up. Or it's easy to get fucked up because you see a band in a similar genre whose label paid for those 100,000 views on YouTube, and you're like, why am I not as successful as this? And it's like, no, it's not it. There's a lot of extra fuckery going on
happening here.
A lot of extra fuckery going on. Yeah, so I don't know. I've become a lot more comfortable in the smaller bubble, and just like it doesn't need to be big. Usually, like there's been times when like I have like YouTube videos that like do really well and they get like consistent comments, and it's like I don't even feel like interacting with these people or like answering their questions.
Cool.
And
it trickles off for me after a certain point. I think we talked about this like 5 years ago, whenever the last time I was on here, and it was just like, what is the number that like you're actually trying to get to, that you're just like, yes, like successful, like that video did it or whatever. But like I've had a couple like tweets blow up, and like at first it is cool and you get that like dopamine cycle going, and then like after a while I'm like, I do not give a fuck. Like people will be like saying something about it, I'm just like, I don't care. Or like I'll see that like 100 more people fucking liked it, I'm like, I don't give a shit. I think for me, I think I'd figured it out. I was like, it was around like 110 or something likes on Twitter, that like past that, I was like, I'm tired of seeing this on my phone. Like I'm tired of seeing notifications for this. But like at first, when you're just like, ooh, are people like it? Like, was this funny? Or like, was this interesting or whatever? And then you're like seeing the number go up and you're like, awesome, it's doing what it's supposed to do. And then, it hits a plateau and I'm just like, gross. Like, I don't, like, I don't know. It just like burns me out on it. I'm just like, I'm like, it could have, like, I just reposted like a meme that I didn't even make the one day, just because like I saw it on Facebook. I was like, that's funny. I'm gonna like post it on Twitter, and like literally like 1,000 people retweeted it, and I was just like, why? Why? Like at first it was like funny. I was just like, oh, cool. I was like, oh man, we doing numbers, or like what are the fucking like catchphrase that people like ironically say when their tweet gets like 4 likes, and so like it had like 19 likes. I was like, oh shit, guys, like we're doing numbers, and then I was like, I had to come back later. I was like, I just want to say, like, that was ironic at the time. Like, you can't tell because, like, now it has 1,000 likes. But I was like joking. I was like, I don't actually, like, sit here, like, jerk myself off over, like, how many likes my tweets get. But I had, because to tie in a couple things we talked about, short form content, niche audiences, kind of what I was just saying, things like blowing up on Twitter or whatever, how many views you can get for something. But so the video that I had made right before I lost my job, and so that was like then like the jumping point for making a bunch of other stuff, because I was like, oh, I just met like a ton of people in these communities that like I would have wanted to know, and I'm like, I made this video, now like a bunch of people, not a bunch, but you know, like a couple dozen or whatever that I would want to follow me, like followed me, and was like, cool. I accidentally networked making some goofy ass video, but I had done a cover of One Winged Angel from Final Fantasy VII, but it was at this time where people were taking songs, like they'd take like the instrumental track to like a Beach Boys song, and they themselves would record them singing Low by T-Pain, like the Apple Bottom Jeans song over it. But like, and they would just be like, oh yeah, this hidden Beach Boys track from like 1964 or whatever. And it's just them like, instead of whatever the fuck, they're just singing Apple Bottom Jeans over it. And I heard somebody do it with Man in the Box by Alice in Chains. I was like, that was the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard. And I was like, and there was this dude whose podcast I would watch, and he was like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, people ask me for advice on like, what should they be making? And he's like, I don't know. Like, what do you want to make? Like, what are you good at making? Because like, if you're good at, like, there's probably nobody else that's going to come up with the exact ideas that you're going to come up with. Like, you have to make the stuff that you can make and nobody else can. Like, that's what people would give a shit about because they can't see it anywhere else. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, these videos are funny. And then I was like, trying to think of like, I don't even think I was trying to think of like videos that, or songs that had vocals that would make sense for me to do that with and upload. And the dude that did the podcast that I watched, he's like a huge Final Fantasy fan. And he had also talked about like when he was in high school, he was like, yeah, I used to have like, you know, top 40 hip hop tracks like at the front of my iPod so that like when people would look at my stuff, like I had like credibility. He's like, and then like the stuff past it was like video game OSTs. He was like, I was actually just like listening to like the Final Fantasy X soundtrack or whatever, like while I was riding the bus to school. And he's like, but I didn't want anyone to know that. So like so I was like, okay, so he has like a surface level knowledge of like mid 2000s hip hop. He loves Final Fantasy. And I was like, I'm going to make this stupid ass video anyway. And then I'll just like tweet it at him because I think it'd be funny to see him just be like, huh. And I was like, that was it. Like, that's all I thought was going to happen. But like, he saw it, like I tweeted it at him and then like he retweeted it. And then like it got like 25,000 views on Twitter, which I had like 50 followers on Twitter. Like I had never had anybody give a shit about anything I'd said on the platform before. But yeah, so then like a bunch of people from these different like video game communities and stuff like, saw me like through that and like then followed me and I was like, oh cool. I was like, I know who you guys are. Like I was like, interesting like branching point for this. But yeah, it was just like a 30-second long video that I put together because I also knew that there were like specific subreddits and stuff that you can put short form content onto. So I was like, cool. I was like, just keep it to like those restrictions. And I was like, I'll make this thing. And like, it'll probably get like 1,000 views on YouTube if I post it on the subreddit at the right time. But like, yeah, that ended up being this really weird like entry point like into these communities that I had like wanted to know more people in and stuff. So like legit, I feel like I accomplished more in like the last 6 months of last year than I did like the 6 years like leading. Like I met more people, like actual connections with people. Like I've done like collabs and worked on songs with other people and stuff that I've met in the last year, and like just things like that hadn't happened when we were like time to go out and play a show and then like write whatever music, like when we were doing the standard band stuff. And then I was just like, what if I just like uploaded songs to the internet like whenever I wanted to and just like tried to interact with people on social media. And then it was like, yeah, that was a way better idea. And so I was like, I don't have to go back out and do normal band stuff and being like, we're going to release an album every 2 years and we're going to go play shows and we're going to try to tour. I was like, I don't care. I was like, I did the stuff that I wanted to do, like just from being on Twitter and then making music in between that and stuff. Like, yeah. So
I think that
was added to it of why it was like, oh yeah, I don't want to go back to playing live shows. I was like, I'm getting all that stuff that I wanted out of it.
Yeah.
And the normal band stuff doesn't have anything to do with it.
Well, that's the thing. Earlier at the very beginning of the conversation, bringing everything back around, we were talking about like the idea of what a band is supposed to do. Yeah. And we're still like living these band lifestyles and doing things in a way that bands were operating prior to the internet.
Yes.
And now that we have these tools, you don't necessarily need to still function in the same way to be successful. There's so many fucking popular musicians of all genres that have blown up on the internet, and then, you know, they do tour and it's a disaster. But
yeah,
regardless, it's like they've still built a crazy career, you know? Like it's wild to think about somebody that blew up on YouTube and then they're playing their first live show ever, sold out in front of like a couple thousand people. But that's happened.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of the like video game cover artists that I follow, I mean, they like just like last year did like their first like live tour. Like they were just like, oh, let's see if we can just like go do this for real. And it's just like, or for real in the standard sense of like, this is what a band would do.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like, it's really interesting for me to be watching it as somebody that was like doing the normal band thing and then was like, nope, I'm going to switch to like all online stuff, and seeing the people that had started out only doing all online stuff being like, I kind of want to do the normal band stuff. And I'm like, maybe you don't. Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, it's interesting. You know, I've known it's really easy to romanticize the road for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know people in bands that have been very successful, and it's like, it gets to a point where it's like, I want to be on tour, but these people that have been on tour, it's like, I just want to be home.
Yeah.
And the grass is always greener, I suppose, right? So I don't know. I think it's maybe just finding, there's no right way 100% that's going to work for everybody. Everybody has different wants and needs. And I think it's just a matter of being honest with yourself, which is a hard thing for most people to do, especially creative people in an alternative subculture. But if you could be honest with yourself,
just try it.
you know, you could maybe genuinely find some happiness and still find a way to be a productive person. You might even be more productive if you can like consistently channel things that actually make you feel good instead of feeling pressured all the time to do shit.
Being like, this is the thing I have to be working on right now.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I mean, as none of us are getting any younger, and as, you know, you get older and life changes in the ways that it does, it's a lot harder to, a lot of people are like, oh, I can't be in a band anymore because there's no way I could ever like tour or anything like that. It's like, well, I guess you really just don't give a fuck about making the music to begin with, because there's plenty of things you could do from home.
Like, bro, you could just go drive around. Like, you don't have to be in a band to do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you could go sleep in a Walmart parking lot in Cincinnati. Like, no one's stopping you from doing that. Like, just use some of your PTO to go fucking do that. You don't have to learn an instrument, man. Like, you can, like, yeah, you can eat fast food every day. Like, no one is stopping you from doing that. Like,
yeah. There's a lot of misinterpreted glamour of being on the road.
Yeah,
for sure.
Or just standard, like one of the people that I knew that had always done online stuff, and then they were like, I'm gonna put together like this album of like covers that I'd worked on, or like I'm gonna cover like the entire OST like from this game, and like have like physical merch and stuff for it. And then like once they did it, they're like, man, it is really hard to sell like whatever. And I was like, yep. Like, it sure is. I'm like, especially because like you're not playing live shows. Like, it would like purely just be them like selling it off Bandcamp or whatever. But like, I mean, you know, you'd like sell merch at shows like just because the people are there, like as like a thing to be like souvenir almost.
Oh yeah,
or whatever,
totally.
You know what I mean?
If you can. We were talking about this last night. I went to a show out in Greensburg. And we were talking about the last time Grey Walker had played out there. Mm-hmm. There was all of these kids that came to the show that were maybe like either just out of high school or I don't know. They were, you know, one of them had a license, so they were able to get to the gig, right? And they like came into the show, and all of them bought Grey Walker merch.
Yeah,
like they just came in and start buying our stuff, right? And I was like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah,
but then they like stayed for the first band and left.
Yeah.
It's like they just came in to like be at a rock show and buy some merch. Like
sick.
They didn't like give a fuck at all about like, who we were. It was just like cool art, you know, on a black and white t-shirt.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you can be in a band that is able to put together a t-shirt that looks reasonably wearable, then you could sell it at a show. People will buy it regardless of if your band is good or not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that is a way to make money. I mean, if you want to make money as a band, I would suggest figuring out how to play consistent shows, whether they're in town or out of town. It could be harder for bands of like metal or punk or hip hop and things like that, because you can't do like the restaurant brewery market square pop up type thing, you know. And that's always been.
You're like, definitely getting invited to less things. Like,
and the things you are getting invited to, it's really hard to be like, like you can. I'll come bring my acoustic guitar and my little shitty PA and, you know, play at your brewery or whatever for $400 for a couple hours. Like, you can't do that as a metal band. I mean, the opportunities exist. I know, like, we've had some, like a few over the almost decade that Grey Walker has been a band. But it's
like, even if they pop up, it's not
super consistent. You know, versus where, like, I've had people on the podcast that are playing like sometimes multiple shows a night. You know, like 2 hours at this place, 2 hours at this place.
Yeah, they do like an afternoon somewhere.
And they fucking, you know, they've made like a fucking $1,000 in a day just, you know, playing songs around. That's a great opportunity. Maybe, you know, making your music a little bit marketable.
A little more palatable.
Can be beneficial.
I went the opposite way. Whenever I was like, okay, I'm going to do a band that's just me. I was like, it's just going to be my name, Katy Scary. And then like, I was like, cool. I guess I'm making like, I don't know, gross music. Like, I was like, I was like, it's going to be some kind of extreme metal. And I was like, which is weird, because I was like, it's literally like everything that people told me they enjoyed about stuff that I did. I was like, what if I didn't do any of that? I was like, what if like I tried to keep making music and it was none of those things that you guys said you were into? But like, I don't know, the people that I've like been meeting and stuff that like, you know, will like follow me on Twitter or whatever, and then I'll like put out something new with that project. And they're like, oh, what the fuck? They're like, I didn't even know. They're like, this is awesome. And I'm just like, I was not expecting you to enjoy this, but like, very cool. Great. But like, yeah, I don't know. I was just like, I'm going to go just make exactly what I want to do. And I was like, and if some people enjoy it, then like, very cool. But yeah, it's like you said with the, there's definitely a limited number of people in every niche. I'm like, yeah, I'm not expecting to like, you know, go get millions of views playing like Carcass riffs or whatever. Like, you know, like it's not going to happen, but I'm cool with it. Like, I'm just like, yeah, I like making it. I like doing that kind of stuff. And like, I understand the threshold of how many views I could be getting with it. And so I'm just like, yes, like relative to what I think I should be getting with it, it's like that's the enjoyment factor out of it, not just like, why don't I have 100,000 views on every video? And like,
it's pretty easy. I can tell you why you don't have those views. You know, I think that it's really important, and you had touched on this to some degree a bit ago, but as an artist, like if you're putting new art out into the world, like if it's not your own unique voice, what's the point? Really, and putting it out there, you know what I mean? Whether that is like having a unique social media presence that works on whatever platform, or even just like with music at all. It's just like, I have such a hard time primarily with Grey Walker, and we're in the middle of writing, you know, new music now, and like trying to figure out like, what are we really contributing, if anything at all, to the world of whatever metal subgenre you want to say we are. You know, it's like, I want to do something that's like unique and fun to listen to, but also like it's a very tight box because it is metal, and there's like only like really so much that you could do that like hasn't been done before. Or if you get too weird, then it kind of gets into a place that's like, I don't know, it's like, it's not us anymore.
It's no longer the thing you were actually trying to do.
Do we just need to like admit that like maybe we kind of just want to be, you know, a little like generic's a mean way to put it, but just like, you know, you know, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we still want to
like, I like this stuff. Let's just do that stuff. Like exactly. Like
so it's like, how do you like
reinvent the wheel with it?
Yeah. How do you just make something that's like worth listening to, what's like worthy of adding to the conversation, you know?
Yeah. And I thought that about like when I'm doing the extreme metal stuff, I'm like, I don't listen to that much extreme metal, so it's literally just like, I don't know, like I probably listen to like 5 or 6 like death metal or like blackened whatever bands, you know. So like also when I'm making it, I'm like, I literally don't know who would want to listen to this, because I don't even know like what's going on with it. But I'm also at the same time like, maybe that is why it's gotten any kind of positive response, because I'm just like, because it is me making it. And it is clearly me making it. Like, it doesn't, not that it's the most unique thing. Like, people come up to me and be like, oh yeah, it sounds like whatever, like this band that I really like, this is awesome. I'm like, I've never even heard of that band, but like really cool that like that's what you pulled out of it. But yeah, I don't know. So that's like, that's like one of the concepts that I've tried to keep with it, is that I'm just like, it's going to sound like me, because I also don't, I'm not so deep in the trenches in this genre of stuff that like I can't be like ripping off. I can't accidentally do like a cookie cutter version of whatever other band, but I'm like, maybe that is why like people out of the woodwork are like, yo, this rips, like really liked it. And it's like, oh, maybe it has like whatever vague quality of me in it. Like maybe that is what's actually sticking out in it. But
it's really, really easy if you are listening to, you know, nothing but death metal and then trying to make death metal. You're just going to have this idea of like what you're doing should sound like, because you've set this precedence in your head because of like, oh, you know, like this fucking Entombed record is fucking rad. And like this fucking thing is like, you know, 25 years old and it still sounds fucking better than anything else. And it's like, well, how do I incorporate some of that into my stuff? It's like, well, you don't just play. I mean, especially with fucking metal,
it'll
it's
subconsciously
like,
show up. Like
it's like, it's like write what comes naturally and play what you can actually play. Like don't fucking overplay, which that's a really good metal thing that a lot of fucking bands do. Just because it could work if you could play it that fast, or you can make your hands stretch in that way reliably and all the time. Just doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, it's like just because you got it like the 1 out of 1,000 shot that you had like when recording it. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, this ain't fucking like some Dave Mustaine PCP fueled one take guitar solo.
Legit, like when I was learning how to play guitar, like I was like into Megadeth because everybody was when they were learning how to play guitar. And there was like, because before with Claymore, I sang and played guitar at the same time. And so there were like some things I would have to like specifically write a riff to be like, okay, I know I'm going to be singing like over top of this. But like I had this riff idea and I thought it was cool. And I was like trying to sing over it. And I was like, all right, I can't really figure out anything that like I can get both aspects to happen physically at the same time. And then I was just like, if Dave Mustaine can be like strung out on heroin for like 18 months in a row and like still get up there and like nail it every time, I was like, I can probably figure this out. Like, I can probably handle it. But like, that was legitimately like my thought process. I was just like, Dave Mustaine was like so fucked up when he did all this stuff. And I was like, I'm just like sitting in my mom's living room at 17, like just trying to like work out a couple riffs. I was like, it's probably not too much to ask of me to like practice this a little more to be able to sing and play it at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is it just like takes a lot of time to build up the muscle memory for something that like you've wrote. And it's always like when you're like coming up with a song, it takes a lot of time for it to like actually settle into like the foundation, because like while you're performing it, you're like, is this actually what this should sound like? And you're always like thinking maybe I might try this other weird little nuance in the middle of doing it. And it's like you're doing that with your hands and your brain and your mouth all at the same time. It's a lot to like really focus on.
Cylinders trying
it's
to
a lot.
Be creative.
It's fucking crazy. But yeah, I don't know. Dave Mustaine, an anomaly. That's why there's only one.
That's why it's just him. He did what he came here to do, I guess.
Yeah, sure did.
He sure did some things.
Lordy. Well, Katy, I think that we are getting to the point where I think we've had like a reasonably well-rounded conversation. I don't know how much more we need to put out publicly. You know, we could probably sit here and chat for another 3 hours about, you know,
maybe not.
I don't know. Nothing. Maybe that's it.
You're just like, oh shit.
I was thinking about like, we could sit here and talk about heroin, but I was like, well, I don't want to do that.
well, we are in Western Pennsylvania.
But, well, shit. For anybody that isn't like, I mean, I would imagine at this point, most people that are still hanging out are probably reasonably familiar with you and connected. But for anyone that isn't, you want to drop them socials so you can, you know, You can do numbers or whatever it is.
Oh, we're doing numbers now. Yeah. Help me do numbers at, I don't know. I'm on the main social media, Twitter, YouTube. Like my bands have band camps for my band Claymore, my band Katy Scary. But yeah, pretty much if you just search Katy Scary into Google, everything will come up. Because I did that one time just to see what would happen. I was like, oh, if somebody's like trying to find out whatever info about me. And it was just like my most recent tweet with like whatever the dumb fucking thing I had to say that day. And I was like, okay, I hope that like actually today's not the day that somebody like tries to find. But yeah, YouTube, Claymore and Katy Scary, Twitter, I'm on there, Katy Scary. I have a Patreon. That's Katy Scary. That's added reason why it's been nice to just sit in the house and churn out content because people were just paying me to stay there.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty motivating factor.
Sure, totally.
But yeah, that's where Spotify, all my stuff's on Spotify. But yeah, the main one is just YouTube. Type in Katy Scary because it'll link to everything that I've done. It's all tagged like that. So all my stuff comes up like that.
I love it. Well, Katy, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome back. It's been another great conversation. We'll do it again in 5 years.
See you again in 5 years.
Oh, man, if I am doing a podcast in 5 years still, I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
We'll see what happens in 5 years.
I'm just happy to be alive. Rock and roll. Well, that's it. That was a podcast. Goodbye.